The Ring of Gyges by Plato. Plato, circa 428, 348, or 347 BC. Considered by many to be the greatest philosopher who ever lived, is the author of the Republic and other great dialogues. Plato's influence on Western culture is incalculable. In the Republic, Plato describes the ideal society where justice reigns supreme. It opens with a scene in which Socrates confronts powerful arguments that disparage justice. We find Glaucon summarizing the views of those who think that justice is merely a compromise between the freedom to do wrong with impunity and to suffer wrong without redress. Because we would risk punitive action by doing wrong, we accept a limitation on our freedoms, so justice is a kind of arrangement like a system of traffic lights that is not in itself valuable or desirable, but is put in place to prevent our suffering wrong from others, like injury in a collision. The Ring of Gyges rendered the wearer invisible, enabling the shepherd Gyges to do as he pleased without fear of reprisal. He used it to murder the king of Lydia, but did Gyges behave unnaturally? Glaucon argues that anyone in Gyges' situation would be fool not to take full advantage of the power to do wrong with impunity. This suggests that justice is nothing more than a preventive device, only we lack the power that Gyges possessed. In the remainder of the Republic, Socrates argues that the citizens of an ideal society would be just because they love justice, and not merely because they feared the consequences of suffering injustice. Glaucon to Socrates: I have never heard from anyone the sort of defense of justice that I want to hear, proving that it is better than injustice. I want to hear it praised for itself, and I think I am most likely to hear this from you. Therefore, I am going to speak at length in praise of the unjust life. And in doing so, I will show you the way I want to hear you denouncing injustice and praising justice. See whether you want to hear what I suggest. Socrates: I want it more than anything else. Indeed, what subject would a man of sense talk about, and hear more often with enjoyment? Glaucon: Splendid. Then listen while I deal with the first subject I mentioned. The nature and origin of justice. They say that to do wrong is naturally good. To be wronged is bad. But the suffering of injury so far exceeds the badness, the good of inflicting it when men have done wrong to each other and suffered it, and have had a taste of both. Those who are unable to avoid the latter and practice the former decide that it is profitable to become in agreement with each other neither to inflict injury nor to suffer it. As a result, they begin to make laws and covenants, and the laws command they call lawful and just. This, they say, is the origin and essence of justice. It stands between the best and the worst, the best being to do wrong without paying penalty, and the worst to be wronged without the power of revenge. The just one, then, is a mean between two extremes. It is welcome and honored because of men's lack of power to do wrong. The man who has that power, the real man, would not make a compact with anyone not to inflict injury or suffer it. For him that would be madness. This, then, Socrates, is, according to their argument, the nature and origin of justice. Even those who practice justice do so against their will because they lack the power to do wrong. This we could realize clearly if we imagined ourselves granting to both the just and the unjust the freedom to do whatever they liked. We could then follow both of them and observe where their desires led them, and we would watch the just man red-handed, traveling the same road as the unjust. The reason is the desire for undue gain, which every organism by nature pursues as a good, but the law forcibly sidetracks him to honor equality. The freedom I just mentioned would most easily occur if these men had the power which they say the ancestors of Lydia Gyges possessed. The story is that he was a shepherd in the service of the ruler Lydia. There was a violent rainstorm and an earthquake which broke open the ground and created a chasm at that place, where he was tending sheep. Seeing this and marveling, he went down into it. He saw, besides many other wonders of which we are told, a hollow bronze horse. There were window-like openings in it. He climbed through them and caught sight of a corpse which seemed of more than human stature, wearing nothing but a ring of gold on his finger. This ring the shepherd put on and came out. He arrived at the usual monthly meeting which reported to the king on the state of flocks, wearing the ring. As he was sitting among the others, he happened to twist the hoop of the ring towards himself, to the inside of his hand, and as he did this, he became invisible to those sitting near him. They went on talking as if he had gone. He marveled at this. Fingering the ring, he turned the loop outward again and became visible. Perceiving he became invisible, but was visible when he turned it outwards. When he realized this, he at once arranged to become one of the messengers of the king. He went and committed adultery with the king's wife, attacked the king with her help, killed him, and took over the kingdom. Now if there were two such rings, one worn by the just man, and the other by the unjust, no one, as people think, would be so incorruptible that they would stay on the path of justice, or bring himself to keep away from other people's property and not touch it, when he could with impunity take whatever he wanted from the market, go into houses and have sexual relations with anyone he wanted, kill anyone, free all those he wished from prison, and do other things which would make him like a god among men. His actions would be in no way different from those of the other, and they would both follow the same path. This, some would say, is a great proof that no one is just willingly, but under compulsion, so that justice is not one's private good, since wherever either thought he could do wrong with impunity, he would do so. Every man believes that injustice is much more profitable to himself than justice, and any exponent of this argument will say that he is right. The man who did not wish to do wrong with that opportunity, and did not touch other people's property, would be thought by those who knew him to be very foolish and miserable. They would praise him in public, thus deceiving one another, for fear of being wronged. So much for my second topic. As for the choice between the lives we are discussing, we shall be able to make a correct judgment about it only if we put the most just man and the most unjust man face to face. Otherwise, we cannot do so. By face to face, I mean this. Let us grant to the unjust the fullest degree of injustice, and to the just man the fullest justice, each being perfect in his own pursuit. First, the just man will act as a clever craftsman do. A top navigator, for example, or physician distinguishes what his craft can do, and what it cannot. The former he will undertake, the latter he will pass, and when he slips he can put things right. So the unjust man's correct attempts at wrongdoing must remain secret. The one who is caught must be considered a poor performer, for the extreme of injustice is to have a reputation for justice. And our perfectly unjust man must be granted perfection in injustice. We must not take this from him, but we must allow that, while committing the greatest crimes, he has provided himself with the greatest reputation for justice. If he makes a slip, he must be able to put it right. He must be sufficiently persuasive speaker if some wrongdoing of his is made public. He must be able to use force where force is needed, with the help of his courage, his strength, and the friends and wealth with which he has provided himself. Having described such a man, let us now, in our argument, put beside him the just man, simple as he is and noble, who, as Aeschylus put it, does not wish to appear just, but to be so. We must take away his reputation, for a reputation for justice would bring him honor and rewards, and it would then not be clear whether he is what he is for justice' sake or for the sake of rewards and honor. We must strip him of everything except justice and make him the complete opposite of the other. Though he does no wrong, he must have the greatest reputation for wrongdoing, so that he may be tested for justice by not weakening until ill repute and its consequences. Let him go his incorruptible way to death with a reputation for injustice throughout his life, just though he is, so that our two men may reach the extremes, one for justice, the other for injustice, and let them be judged as the which do is the happier. Socrates. Whew! My dear Glaucon, what a mighty scouring you have given to those two characters, as if they were statues in a competition.